Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the GallowgateShots YouTube channel and podcast. And we are back with our third match reaction of the season. I am your host today, Kris, joined by Joe and Iain. I'm going to be honest with everybody that is watching and listening to this one. It's not going to be pretty upbeat, this one. And the reason why we're doing it the morning after the game is because emotions were very high yesterday. And I didn't want to put the likes of myself or the rest of the lads in that sort of position where they could say something which they may regret. Jump forward to the next morning, and I think we are all feeling exactly the same as what we did at full time. So it made no difference whatsoever. So we're just going to dive in. We're going to keep this one pretty quick, around about 20 minutes long, because I think a few people are waking up with mixed reactions after that display. But I'll come to you first of all, Joe. It was the same starting 11 which Eddie Howe has gone with since the start of this campaign. I don't think there's any grumbles about that. The lads have played well in both games prior to this one. So any grumbles from you? Any concerns?
No surprise. We absolutely dominated the ball against Villa, and we played against a City team that was European champions, treble winners. It was kind of a it was kind of a free hit, that game. So you look at that and think, well, the lads can't really express themselves in the way that they did in the opening day of the season. So there's no point trying to read too much into that. It's the midfield was looking really solid and strong, great in possession, creative down the wings. So you thought it was a perfect opportunity against a Liverpool side whose midfield is still very much taking shape. They're bringing in new signings. They don't really have a out-and-out defensive midfielder to help hold the fort, and you thought that is a big opportunity for us to dominate that midfield, to really get one over on a Liverpool team that have ran the show in recent years. A lot of the commentary leading up to this game was how Eddie Howe's side is now looking like the Liverpool team of 3-4 years ago that used to dominate that press and play, run teams out of a game. And it looked like a really good, I say again, opportunity for us to replicate what Liverpool have done to so many teams in the past.
You were involved in the match preview, Iain, if I remember right, and I think it was suggested a few times that if we dominate that midfield, then the game's ours, because that's where it's going to be won and lost. But I want to jump straight into the game straight away, and it's a great start from Newcastle, dominant once again. It wasn't end for a little spell, I would say, but once Newcastle got into the flow, and obviously the first decision which the referee has to make there is the Trent Alexander-Arnold basically throws a ball back on the field and picks up his first yellow card. Listening back to match of the day, and obviously where I am in the ground, I don't see this happening. Obviously I see that he throws the ball on the field, but that's never a yellow card to me in regards to it should have been stopped before that, because Gordon absolutely clatters him. So what are your thoughts on that one, first of all?
Yeah, I think Klopp was on about it, and I'm trying not to comment about him because my feelings on him of just like below negative. So you're right. I think Gordon does foul him. I think they should have had a free kick, but that doesn't happen. And it's sort of the old adage of play to the whistle. They didn't get a free kick for that. That's been and gone. His reaction then, now by the letter of the law and how sort of cheap these things are, it's a yellow card. But completely agree. I think that Gordon does come in and sort of takes him out, and they should have had a free kick. But that being said, that didn't happen. You've just got to sort of react to then what comes after that, which is by now the letter of the law, a booking. But then if you want to jump straight into the
second one, yeah.
So the second one is annoying because Gordon's away. I think he was booked within 3 minutes. I think this happens on 7 minutes. Gordon's away from him. He pulls him back. And I was watching Match of the Day. I've watched Premier League games this season. I think Tomiyasu for Arsenal got sent off for a second yellow as well on Monday against Palace for that sort of pullback, which, again, it's just infuriating because the lack of consistency in Premier League refereeing. And again, we covered this at the end of the match preview. And I feel it's not even a case of if he doesn't have a yellow, he's booked. we've seen it time and time before. That foul is a booking. And it happened to an Arsenal player where he was wasting time. He got his first booking. The pullback, yes, it's soft, but it's a yellow card. But I strongly believe, like, if he didn't get booked in, should we say, controversial circumstances, because I don't feel it should have led to a booking because they should have had a foul. But he's been booked. Referee the game as normal. Like, that is a yellow card offence. They should have been down to 10 men. And I'm not making excuses at all, because obviously they then go down to 10 men. But it's just the consistency of or lack of consistency of refereeing is just so frustrating. But to me, it's a red. It's like second yellow and it's a red card.
It was highlighted on Match of the Day, Joe, wasn't it? It was highlighted on Match of the Day that it's all about timing in a game, and it shouldn't be the case. The referee is completely bottled it because he's about to give 2 yellow cards in the opening 10 minutes of a game.
At the time, I was screaming bottle job at the referee, I won't lie. If I remember correctly, it wasn't just a pullback, though. He went out and swung his arm at Gordon and almost hit him in sort of, sort of hit him bottom of the face, top of the shoulders, whatever. I mean, that in itself is quite malicious. It depends on, this is the thing, how much do we want to give referees the benefit of the doubt that context in a game matters? Like, is it those two incidents so early in the game, relatively quite light yellows, especially the first one.
That sets a precedent for the rest of the game, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. Is I guess the wider question is: do we think that football is benefit from context in referees giving the benefit of the doubt and not having these challenges so black and white? I know that is difficult because then that opens a whole can of worms as to the rule book and what the letter of the law is and how it is dictated. And it's a difficult one. It depends on how strict you want to be with the rules going forward and how much that is worth potentially compromising what would be a good game. I know you can turn around and say, well, he deserved to be sent off because of 2 yellows. It's a difficult one. It is. I've seen those yellows given. I've seen them not given. I mean, I'm not being funny. I mean, look at Martinez, who took down Almiron. We were screaming for a red card all the time, and we were annoyed that wasn't just a yellow. It was fair enough. Gordon was taken down an hour and a half, but regardless, he was still starting an attack, and it was looking very dangerous. So it was worthy of at least another yellow if you take that into consideration.
Yeah, I could see if the referee let him get away with the first yellow because it's so early in the game and it's just a frustration sort of thing. I would have got that. The second one's a yellow card all day long. The only reason he doesn't pick that yellow card up there is because of what's just happened a few moments beforehand. That's precisely the only reason. Yeah. And if I had a flash forward, if I'd have done that 15 minutes after the first challenge, then that would have 100% been the second yellow card and he would have been off.
Yeah.
It's all to do with timing. And the referees obviously thought it's too early in the game to send the player off, not knowing what was going to happen not long after that as well.
Yeah.
But for me, I think he bottles it down to how early in the game it is, and I don't think we can look at it in any other way whatsoever.
But then that comes back to the point you made, or that was made on Match of the Day. It shouldn't matter. Like, if it's a foul, if it's a yellow card foul or a red card foul in the first minute, the same foul is then warranted for the same punishment in the 20th minute, the 80th minute, the 97th minute. Like, it shouldn't matter, and that's the frustrating thing. But that's always been the case. It hasn't just been this incident. And yes, we're a little bit angry because of the result, and it's happened against us. But that shouldn't matter, and it is just frustrating. But I think that the level of refereeing again is a completely different conversation.
It's questionable at best at the moment. It's what the third game week of the season, and there's already decisions out there, abundance of decisions, which have got big question marks above them, and huge concerns about how officiating in this country is getting worse, I would say. But jumping on from there, there's a couple of chances. I think Joe Linton gets a chance. I think it's just after where Miggy keeps it on the right hand side, where he's absolutely flying to keep that ball in. Joe Linton gets, I think he hits it straight at the keeper. Then there's another one which it's Nick Pope pulls off a great save, and I think it might be
from Diaz.
He's on the left hand side.
Great one. But I think after that, that's when we saw Newcastle come into the game and dominate that midfield, because every time we lost the ball, I would say within 10 seconds we got it back, and we're reading the game so well. And I thought Tonali in that period of the game was absolutely superb. He was grafting his arse off to get everywhere on the field. And 9 out of 10 times, he was doing something well with the ball as well. And you can look at the same on the left-hand side with Gordon as well. Gordon, for me, man of the match.
100%.
Easy.
But obviously, the game changed slightly later on, but we'll get onto that. Next upcoming is the goal, obviously. And Anthony Gordon capitalizes on a mistake by the Liverpool back four, Joe. And we've seen in pre-season that when Gordon finds himself in these sort of positions, it's a 50-50 chance, really, which way it goes. He hasn't been great at finishing in some of the games which we have seen, but this one, he does really well to pick that ball up and just tuck it underneath the keeper.
Very well. The anticipation to read that the pass could go wayward. I think it was Van Dijk who was still coming down on him on the right hand side at that time.
Yeah.
The Alisson, who was one of, if not the best goalkeeper in the world, coming right over his box in, closing that angle in, and he manages just to tuck it in beautifully. I was worried when he was going through, because you said everything but his finishing has been clinical.
Yeah.
In pre-season, and it's one of those where you feel like a longer player goes on without scoring a goal, yada yada yada, confidence and whatnot. But for him to get that goal, especially who it was against as well, was absolutely sweet, and you could see how much it meant to him. We really desperately need our wingers this season to be more clinical. That is one criticism that I think most people had of Eddie Howe's players. Well, it was play last season, was that we were getting a few goals from midfield in that, and obviously, Miggy did have that purple patch where he scored a lot, but consistently getting them throughout the season was something we struggled with. It was insane with Saint Maximin. That was always something that was leveraged against him. And so we brought in the likes of Gordon, Harvey Barnes to be these, clinical poachers, so to speak, on those wide areas. And it looks like we're finally getting it. Getting it. And I'm really happy for the lad, because you could tell again how much it meant to him. And hopefully it does kick on that confidence boost that he needs to get us 15 goals a season.
Especially with Harvey Barnes just breathing down his neck as well.
Well,
He's
that's
far away.
That's it.
He's got to have if he gets these chances, he has to score them. And not just that, he had a great game overall. I think I've said this just last week or the week before, that it was his best game in a Newcastle shirt. He's got.
I think it was his best game
against Liverpool.
Yeah. I mean, I never watch Everton week in and week out, but I can't imagine he would have had too many better performances playing for them as well. He really was up for his fitness levels, man. I mean, what he was, what he's saying when he first arrived, that he wasn't up to scratch in terms of his fitness, and he wasn't able to provide what Eddie Howe wanted him to. I think he's absolutely now within that remit to do exactly what Eddie Howe's asking of him. And not to jump too much ahead, but it did baffle me a little bit performing like that, how he didn't start for the full 90.
We'll get onto that, because I think Eddie Howe has actually spoken about that as well.
Okay.
Gordon's sticking on Gordon. He's involved in the next phase of play. It's him that gets that ball and puts Isaac through, and Isaac's basically just taken out by Van Dijk, and red card is shown instantly by the referee. Van Dijk is not very happy that he has seen red and that he's getting sent back into the changing rooms. For you, was it a red card?
Blatant. Again, I hate the phrase because I sound like him off Line of Duty, but letter of the law is it's a goal scoring opportunity. Yes, I know there's that double jeopardy rule, but
inside the box, that is.
What is it? Oh well, there you go then.
So if that challenge had to be made inside the box, most likely we would have got a penalty and he would have got a yellow card.
Yellow card. Fair. But yeah, Isaac's done so well to get himself between the ball and running at pace as well. It's not just that he's sort of braced for impact. He's got in front of the Van Dijk and got himself between the ball. And again, I hate Klopp, and his comments afterwards, there's no active contact between him and Isak apparently.
What?
Other than that's what he's
contact. What is that?
No idea what
back of the lad, man. What's he on about?
He's literally took both his legs out. Yes, he's then got a touch on the ball, but that's before he's took Isak out. If he doesn't tackle there, Isak's in the box. That's potentially 2-0. So, and I don't know what Carragher's on about. Oh, you don't know if it's a goal scoring opportunity. He's literally through clean on goal,
touch away from being in the box 1-on-1 with Alisson.
And it's not even
I like Carragher, but that was poor from him.
It's not even if it's out wide or he's got the rest of the pitch to cover and he's got defenders covering him. He's past the last man. Like, so I genuinely don't know what they were crying about. It's a blatant red card. But it wouldn't surprise us if then that gets overturned.
That will get overturned.
No, absolutely not.
Just because they're whingy, but there's no on no planet is that not a red card.
I don't want to come across as a bit of a whinge here because it happens in most Premier League games. But the new rule which came in this season was that only one player from each team was allowed to approach the referee in any sort of situation. We saw about 6 or 7 around about the referee when Van Dijk went off, and Van Dijk took a good handful of minutes before he even left the field of play. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on the back of that, because I know they have been clamping down on respect for referees. And
it looked like he was almost going to refuse to leave the pitch as well, wasn't he? He was like, "No, nah,
he wasn't going, was he?"
So if we'll move on there because we've got quite a few talking points in the second half when the game drops a bit. But I think just before half time, that's when Miggy has a great chance, and it's a great save by our
unreal save.
Great save, and he knocks it onto the post, I believe it is. Then it bounces back into on the line and it gets cleared. I think the referee looks straight at his watch.
He palms it.
He palms it on the crossbar and just pops down like just in front of the line.
Okay.
Smashes it away.
So the referee looks straight at his watch there, and I'm thinking, Howe, just blow your whistle, just say that's gone in, because I'm obviously at the other side. I'm Gallowgate, so I can't see, but you're seeing, then obviously the match goes on. Second half comes, and I think after the second half, the first 5-10 minutes, once again Newcastle in possession straight away, and we're like, all right, we mean business here. But then I think what's happened, because Liverpool have gone down to 10 men, it slightly changes the way we approach games. And I'm not sure if that's from the likes of the coaching staff changing things, or if it's the players on the field just thinking, we can take with time here, we can slow it down a bit because there are only 10 men. I think what we should have done in that game, that second half, if just gone for the jugular straight away and just kept on going and going and going. And obviously, with the left back being on a right back,
Trent.
Right back being on a yellow card, we didn't capitalise that as much as what we should have done, because you could see every time Gordon went down that side, they were scared to put a challenge in, and he was just drifting past on obviously his side of the field. Then I think that's when things around about 55, 60 minutes, that's when I'm thinking that this game is slowly falling away from us, and we can just see it slipping. And I think one of the things is just to quickly go through these. Gordon has a great chance. He picks up on the left hand side. He drives across the front of the box and absolutely smashes it wide. He should be hitting the target all day long there.
If you watch the replay, because I thought that it comes off his left foot first, so it knocks it just to the right.
He's done that thing again where he's hit it with his wrong foot.
Yeah.
It's unlucky. It's really unlucky because it was a
we'll
great
have another chance as well, not too long after that, where Miggy from the other side of the field, the right hand side, cuts across the box, smashes that, and hits the post. And I'm thinking, it's at that point where I'm thinking, man,
we're missing a
the Miggy ballooned it,
where he leans back and skies it over. I think it was Joe Linton who does absolutely fantastic on the left hand side by the byline. Don't know how he manages to get it away from the defenders. I think it ricochets a bit, but yeah, he knocks it in, and Miggy's in a perfect spot. And he just leans back and absolutely skies it over the top.
He's even got time to take a touch there as well. Like there's literally no one around him.
It's just instinctive when the ball lands at that area. And
of course,
you're probably just going to smash at it. But like Joe said, that lean, it's just he's absolutely nearly took that out of the top of the Gallagher there, man.
Yeah,
he really has. Right, so we're gonna get to the bit where things start going downhill. Obviously, there's a couple of substitutions made. Gordon goes off, Tonali goes off. Joe Linton goes off as well.
Yeah.
Which changes the game massively, because that's 2 players there in Tonali and Gordon, which are dominating in the areas of the field which they play. Eddie Howe came out and said that I believe Gordon was limping, so Gordon might have a slight issue there. And Tonali, fair, he looked absolutely knackered at this point of the game. Okay, but having said that, this is where the game changes massively. And this is where our grasp on the game starts going completely, and Liverpool dominate from here. Let's fire through the goals. So, the first goal. So Nunes comes on, obviously. And the first goal, it's Liverpool started playing these sort of balls as the game went on, where it was just kind of route one, really, where they're just trying to get that up the field as quick as possible. And all it takes from Liverpool is 2-3 passes in the right hand goal. And we've seen that for years on that club with Liverpool. And they do similar here. So the ball comes from the centre of midfield. And it, unfortunately, Botman's position, he's kind of on the turn.
He's
Obviously,
caught square on, like half.
yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's aware of over his shoulders. Nunes is there and causing a bit of an issue, and it just kind of hits him just below the hip, I believe. Then the ball just bobbles under his feet. Then it just lands perfectly in line for Nunes to run with that. But what I do want to say is he absolutely buries that chance.
Oh, it's a fantastic finish. Like, take nothing away from that.
It's caused one mistake from us, and Liverpool have scored. And that, I believe, it was the reason why a lot of people are frustrated at this one. The first real chance that they get, and they bury it.
I think it was the first shot on target.
Well, no. Salah. Don't forget, Botman had to do a world-class block to stop Salah from scoring.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
He did.
At that point, that was the point where I was bricking it. Because you mentioned about the times there, Kris, like 65 minutes in. I remember turning to someone and saying, I'm worried here because we are 1-0 up, but we are letting them have way too much possession in midfield. They're biding their time. They're being patient. They know that they can have one or two big chances and probably square them away. And I was really concerned.
It wasn't even just like clear-cut chances. We'll let them have so much possession. We weren't pressing as a unit. I think that's where it comes down to. Just the midfield changes. Everyone was regimented and they knew the job when he brought. And this is no disrespect to the players that they've brought on, because we've seen how well Longstaff can break up play, and he's really, really good at that. But there was didn't seem like there was any cohesion in terms of the press. And then we started sitting further and further back. And then it was even things like they were getting like quite a few corners that were dangerous, and there was like a couple that Pope sort of missed, and it was just, you could tell, and I completely agree with you, it was around about 60, 65 minutes where we just invited them back into the game. And yes, they're down to 10 men, and yes, I cannot stand Liverpool and Klopp and the majority of their players, but they are absolute world-class players. Like, it just because they're down to 10 men doesn't change the fact that they can still win games, which obviously we'll go on to in a second, and they go and do.
I think just stick with the first goal, Joe. Can you blame Botman, or is it just unlucky at this point?
Oh, God, no. Well, I will blame Botman as an individual. What I will blame is the team for allowing that much space at the back at that point in the game, because you can accept that a player will have some, like, a mistake that what happened with Botman, because it was just a look at the bounce. That happens. You know, it's really unfortunate. But why were we allowing that much space on a team, for a team that was just playing through balls and had just brought on such a quick player, such a Nunez? Like, it felt like it was self-sabotage. That's the thing with this game. And make no bones about it, Liverpool deserved to win this game because of the game management. Simple as that. However, we need to have a hard look at ourselves and go, why did we, in such a fortunate position, such as what we were in, basically do everything that Liverpool wanted us to do in order to afford them counter-attacks? So I don't know why we allow that much space. I don't know. The midfield. I mean,
the gap between the midfield and defense was huge.
It got huge. It got huge, and it was so baffling. It was weird. And I'll tell you what, like, it was this criticism that we're now having. I mean, it kind of goes back to what you said, Kris, earlier about them, playing against 10 men is harder. I mean, Eddie Howe was asked about this exact thing at the end of the game, and he said that it's a different proposition playing against 10 men because they sit deeper, they're more patient, etc. And we had this issue last year where we couldn't break teams down that play the low block.
Yeah.
Right. And we struggle against, and no disrespect, but we struggle against lesser teams like Bournemouth, Palace, and things like that. Liverpool, fine. They got 10 men, but I'm not being funny. They made substitutions to bolster back at the back, and then they're happy as Larry just sitting back and seeing what they can do. So it's our fault for not taking these opportunities, but it does continue to worry me that we struggle to break teams down when they play that low block. But it is what it is. They're a world class team.
You spoke about self-destruct in there, and I think it's great to jump across to the second goal, which we conceded, and Liverpool's winner. I know Bruno has not necessarily came under a lot of stick, because obviously everybody knows what happened on social media with a Newcastle account and the reaction that Bruno gave on that about blaming individuals. And I'm not blaming Bruno as an individual for losing this game. Of course I'm not. But I think we do have to look at Bruno's decision to try and play the ball on the outside of his boot in that area of the field when he's got. Is it who's it? The player? Is it Elliott that hits off?
It's Harvey Elliott
Harvey
that hits,
Elliott,
and then he gets it straight to Salah.
Yeah, so he's Harvey Elliott's on him like a couple of foot away, and Bruno's trying to be clever with his ball and ping it with the outside of his boot to get around him. It's at that point, as soon as that happens, Liverpool are away once again, and it's what, 90th minute or something daft like that.
93rd.
It's honestly, it's a disastrous decision by Bruno to do that in that position when he's got options everywhere around him. It could have been a nice, easy layoff to target, and we could have possibly hit Liverpool down that left-hand side. But no, Bruno makes this decision, and once again, it puts Núñez in a very similar position he found himself in the first one, and it's a different finish. It's another finish which is absolutely fantastic, mine, but it's a different one. He puts the ball high and around Nick Pope there, and I just, I can't understand what's gone through Bruno's head to do that. I just can't understand it.
Nah, neither can I. It's like it's a kick in the teeth that you've got a team in a vulnerable position down to 10 men, and you've allowed them back into the game, and then you've allowed them to equalise. So yes, I get trying to press for that the winner and try and sort of save face, but just play simple things like Liverpool. And again, going back to what Joe said, Liverpool over the last 3-4 years have been so good at pressing. They don't just lose that. And especially with the fresh legs of Harvey Elliott, who I thought caused quite a bit of problems in terms of pressing and winning the ball back when he came on. Just play simple football. You don't need to do Hollywood balls in a game where the atmosphere is as sort of fiery it is, where, yes, it's not. I mean, we're not good. Let's face it, we're not going to win the league. We're not going to qualify Champions League. We're not going to get relegated on the back of this result. But it's a big game to set down a marker to get some valuable points on the board against a team that will be competing on come the end of the season. Just play the simple ball. And I don't know what it is with Bruno at the minute. And again, this isn't to jump on his individual back, because there was a lot of players that I thought, didn't do themselves any justice. But I said it sort of in the group chat, pre-season, he just hasn't looked the same player as what we got sort of the first 12 months. Like he's looked slow. Like even when he's lost that ball, yes, by all accounts, it's 90 minutes. His legs will be tired, but even sort of he's running back, he looked slow. I just don't know if there's, like we talked about him having an ankle injury towards the back of last season. And he went away and had 24 weddings or whatever. It doesn't look like it doesn't look like it's been an issue, but there's just something, I just don't feel there's something right with Bruno at the minute. We're not seeing the best that he is, and we know that he's an emotional guy and he plays with emotion and things like that, but just play simple football and then, like you say, ball to target, left back, and we're away. But because we have possession, like I know you've got to be reactive as a defender, but that's caused the back four to be fairly deep. Dan Burn deeper than anyone else. And let's face it, Dan Burn's not the quickest. Núñez has a bit of pace, and like you say, he's in behind, and it's a great finish. But it's just so frustrating. And I do think, and I don't want to blame, and I don't want this to come across as like I'm sort of overreacting, but I think this is the first game that I can remember, and I think it's probably because of the result where there's been a bigger magnifying, where I think Eddie Howe's just got everything wrong. His tactics in the second half, these substitutions, the timing of them, I just feel like he's got everything wrong yesterday.
Anything to add on that, Joe?
Nah, spot on. I think we have to maybe caveat the defence a little bit with the fact that Botman was off at this point, so Burnham went to centre back. Matty Target was at left back. Target was kind of caught in no man's land a little bit, and because, I mean, as Iain said, because we gave the ball away, the defence wasn't really set up for an attack. And yeah, Burn was further back. No one was picking Núñez up, and he just kind of skirted around Dan Burn and just in that space between him and Target, and it was just one of those. It really shouldn't have happened. That game should have been dead and buried by 60 minutes, man.
It's hurt, hasn't it?
Just it should. It hurts. It hurts. I genuinely cannot think of a result that hurts as much as that has done. But I think everything surrounding it, and it's harsh. It's mainly down to the fact that it was, again, our own self-destructive attitude that caused it. The fact that we were dominating was for the majority of the game against 10 men. We were 1-0 up. We squandered numerous chances. We were not clinical enough, and they were there for the taking. They were not confident. They were shaky. We could have scored 2 or 3 by halftime at least. And it's just so frustrating that not only did we not capitalize on Trent's yellow card, not capitalize on the fact that Van Dijk was off, but the fact that we allowed them to execute their game plan to perfection, to allow that space in. And it's naivety. It's naivety and it's complacency. And I don't want to go as far as say it's arrogance, but we have a lot to learn. We have a lot to learn from this result, more so than the 2 Liverpool results last year, which were annoying in their own right, but they for different circumstances. This was completely down to us.
Yeah.
And that is what frustrates me. And this result, it's frustrating because like the first half, especially, this was everything Eddie Howe team has been good at: dominating the ball, pressing, outrunning the opposition.
Intensity
so in that sense,
is our identity. Remember,
the first half I cannot fault at all. Yeah, except for maybe the fact we should have got another goal. Fine, capitalize on Trent's yellow card a bit more. Fine, but whatever. Got to 1-0 halftime. Great, hunky dory. The second half goes completely against the ethos that Eddie Howe has instilled upon this team. We were, being sloppy, making silly decisions, not being clinical enough. It wasn't what this team has been used to and is shown, and that's what annoys me. We are better than that. And for all people can say, yeah, okay, it's a freak result, maybe don't look into it too much. Like, I just think that it was so uncharacteristic. It was so uncharacteristic.
It's great what Iain said, that this game isn't going to have a huge impact on the season overall.
No,
it's been a very, very difficult start for Newcastle. Obviously, great result against Villa, closely followed by a defeat at Man City. A defeat, and like you said, a self-destructive performance, which have caused a defeat against Liverpool, and then we've got a tough one in Brighton coming up as well. It's a horrible start to the season. It really is in relation to fixtures. I just think you would hope that it's another lesson for the lads to learn, and I think it just highlights that maybe we need to take a step back and think maybe we're not as good as what some people think we are. And yes, the lads do have it in them, of course they do. But you saw once again the difference between the likes of Liverpool that get those couple of chances and they bury it. And I think Anthony Gordon highlighted this in his post-match interview as well, where they asked him about the goal he scored. Yeah, said, yeah, it's great, but that's the difference, that Liverpool had these chances and they've took them, where we haven't been clinical enough in front of goal. When we have had the chances, we've created the chances, we couldn't find the back of the net. And obviously it will be an issue if that continues through the rest of the season, which I don't think it will. I think we will find a feet. No. I think, like I said, it just has been a bit of a difficult start. But it is what it is. And what I do want to highlight as well, I'm not sure if the Sky cameras would have picked this one up, but inside the ground, obviously the lads normally do the lap around the field, which they did do. Kieran Trippier wanted to get off that field as quick as possible. He looked absolutely livid at full time, where it just looked like he wanted to get in that dressing room and run riot and kick off at certain performances.
You'd hope that they've got that in it. Like, let's face it, we've seen sort of through the Amazon documentary, we've seen the sort of the goodness of the good side of the dressing room when they're winning, and so you'd like to think they've got that they're as annoyed as we are as fans. A couple of things that I just wanted to end on. So you saying there it's been a very difficult start. By all accounts, it's been a ridiculously hard start. I think we're first 5 opponents finished within the top 7. I've seen a lot of calls for as Eddie Howe out his depth, blah blah blah. To me, that's absolutely ridiculous. Yes, he's got it wrong yesterday, but they're saying 3 points from 3 games. If you had have said we'll draw against Villa, against City, against Liverpool, same amount of points, you would be happy with that. It's just the manner of how we lost that game yesterday from being in a winning position. So people that are calling for Eddie Howe and like have a I don't know if it's being over emotional, but just like take your foot off the gas and like sit and actually think about what you're saying.
I think just that pocket of social media which you're looking at, Ian. I think you just need to see those people, mute them, then you'll never see it again. Because any reasonable Newcastle fan,
people are literally just doing it for attention and just to garner like conversation. That's all it is. Like I would also just like to end on a point where nothing you, I, or anyone else can say here that Eddie Howe and his team aren't already acutely aware of and understand from that game. That's the thing. If that game had occurred during the McLaren era or the Bruce era or whatever, I would be sat there going, Jesus Christ, our mentality is shocking. We're going to maybe not get relegated, but we are going to struggle when we're under the caution later on in the season. I am completely convinced and completely confident that those issues will be rectified. Maybe not next week or the week after, but across the season, Eddie Howe is going to make sure that performance and that kind of mentality does not happen again. Yesterday has not changed my position or thoughts at all on Eddie Howe, the club, where this is going. And I think we should completely criticize this game in isolation. We can absolutely lambast what happened, to an extent, obviously draw out abuse because that's ridiculous. But constructive criticism, we can do that. But in terms of the grand scheme of things, as Ian said earlier, this is not going to change our title run. This isn't going to change our Champions League run. This isn't going to change our overall trajectory throughout the season. We just need a bit of perspective that this club is learning and growing together as a board, as a management, as players. Unfortunately, this was a blip. We've had it very good. We've had a very good since the takeover, and this has been one of those rare negative turns that we just need to learn from. But I'm confident we'll do it.
It's because we're not used to having this sort of emotion. It's been a while since we've had.
It's been a while because we're better than this as well. This is the kind of what I'm trying to say is we are better than this. In context is important. I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, 2 years ago we were playing Bruce ball and all that," and it's like, okay, but we're not anymore. I've seen what these players can do. We are allowed to criticize them because we know they're better than that.
That's the thing with me is
live up to their potential as they are doing, as they should be doing.
Is the people saying, "Oh, well, do you want to go back to Bruce Ball or under Ashley? We would have been like this." We're not that club anymore. And I've said this about the positives. I'll say it about the negatives. We've set our own high standards, and yesterday it was well below the standards we've set. And to a degree, yes, we overachieved last season, but we've still it's not just like one-off games. We were very, very good for the majority of last season. We've set that standard now, and yes, it might be a bit high, but we need to be trying to at least push that. And I think yesterday, from all parts, from game management, from individual performances, as a team cohesive, we were well below that standard, and to be honest, deserved to get beat.
Exactly that. Boys, I would love to say it's been a pleasure. It hasn't been because I don't like talking about these sort of defeats. And I was hoping that this would probably calm us down a little bit. Hasn't. It's made it worse.
All right.
But yeah, thanks everybody who is watching. Thanks everybody who is listening as well. If you have like this sort of content, just like the video tool, but ask become a subscriber. If you're listening back to the audio, just give us a rating. Give us a 5-star rating. It helps us out massively. But yeah, I will be back tonight to do this all over again with the lads on the Always Smiling Faces podcast. I cannot wait for that. Why would I not want to speak about this twice? But yeah, it's been, well, I was going to say it's been a pleasure. Like I said, hasn't. Thanks, boys. See you later. Ta-ra.